Welcome to the Inner Essence, a space of mindfulness, spiritual awakening, and reconnecting with your true self. Breath, be present, and begin your journey with it.
Have you ever noticed how every breath carries more than just air? Sometimes, the simple act of inhaling seems to drag along memories, desires, and even invisible fears, as if the body were crossed by an ancient wind that does not belong only to you. Breathing is not just physiology. It is language. Every flow of air passing through the lungs records a secret dialogue between what we call the self and what we call reality. Science describes breathing as an exchange of gases, oxygen going in, carbon dioxide coming out. But behind this mechanics lies something that does not fit into graphs or numbers. Breathing alters states of consciousness, adjusts internal rhythms, opens passages to perceptions that the mind on its own cannot reach. Inhaling and exhaling not only sustain life, they shape the way the world presents itself to us. There are cultures that understand air as a spirit in motion. In the East, prana. In the ancestral traditions of the Americas, the vital breath that gives shape to the universe. What they share is the perception that to breathe is to participate in a greater field, where every inhale is an invitation and every exhale a response. Now consider an idea that may have never crossed your mind. What if breathing were not just a movement of the body, but also the gesture of the very observer who dwells in silence behind thoughts? The air that enters is not only physical substance, it is vision being nourished. And what leaves is not merely exhalation, it is the world being returned, reshaped by your way of seeing. If all perception creates reality, then every breath can be an act of transformation. The observer breathes, and with him the entire universe reorganizes. Breathing is more than sustaining survival. It is as if each inhale were a key that adjusts the frequency with which we perceive reality. Continuing the thread we have already opened, think of breathing as an invisible antenna that tunes the body to different layers of experience. Inhaling does not only mean oxygenating cells, but allowing subtle information to enter, like signals captured from a broader field. Neuroscience already shows that breathing alters brain states. Deep inhalation activates regions linked to attention, mental clarity, and memory. Prolonged exhalation, in turn, connects to zones related to rest and emotional balance. With each cycle, the brain adjusts like a musical instrument consciously tuned. This is the scientific fact. But something escapes the reach of measurement. Breathing also changes the way we observe life. Think of the observer that exists in you. I'm not speaking of your racing mind, nor of your feeling body, but of the silent instance that simply witnesses. This consciousness cannot be described in biology manuals, and yet it is what gives meaning to the world. Now notice, this instance also breathes, not in the physical sense, but in a deeper gesture, as if every inhale were the observer gathering the universe, and every exhale the observer returning the transformed universe. It is curious to notice that spiritual traditions from distinct cultures reached similar conclusions. In Sufism, one speaks of the breath of the compassionate, a force that sustains all creatures. Among Tibetan monks, breathing is seen as a bridge to higher states of meditation. In both cases, it is not only a bodily technique, but a way of reorganizing perception, of shaping reality from within. Here is the essential point. The observer's breath is not automatic. It calls for awareness. Breathing mechanically keeps the body alive, but breathing consciously can awaken new ways of existing. Each time air enters with attention, the mind quiets for an instant. The noise fades, and perception expands. It is like cleaning the lenses through which we see the world. A simple example. In moments of anxiety, the chest contracts, breath becomes short and rapid. Reality in that state feels threatening, narrow, suffocating. But by lengthening the breath, by letting air expand into the abdomen, something shifts. The body relaxes, the heartbeat steadies, the gaze finds new possibilities. External reality has not truly changed, but the way of perceiving it has, and that already means a concrete transformation. What few realize is that this change is not small. It redefines the entire game. Quantum physics suggests that the observer is not neutral, but interferes with the outcome. If every gaze modifies the observed field, then each conscious breath alters the way life responds. It is not only a calmer body or a clearer brain, it is the very fabric of reality that reconfigures in resonance with the state of the observer. And here we step into paradoxical ground. Breathing is at once the simplest and most revolutionary act. A movement repeated thousands of times a day can also be the deepest instrument of transformation. The observer's breath is the minimal gesture that generates immense repercussions because it connects two seemingly separate spheres, the biological and the spiritual, the body and perception. At this point, the mystery thickens. Inhaling is not just bringing the world inside, but recognizing that the world is already within. Exhaling is not just releasing air, but joining a dance where everything breathes through you. The forest breathes, the ocean breathes, the entire earth pulses in cycles. The observer is not isolated. By breathing consciously, he perceives himself as part of this same cosmic respiration. Perhaps true transformation lies not in manipulating the outer world, but in modifying the inner rhythm with which we perceive it. Conscious breathing does not offer immediate answers, but opens space, and it is this space that changes the game, the place where choices arise, where previously invisible possibilities become tangible. Breathing in this sense is not just physiology, it is creation. With every deep inhale, the observer awakens. With every conscious exhale, reality takes on a new contour. The air that comes and goes is not only a biological phenomenon, it is the very fabric of the real being adjusted, as if each cycle were a brushstroke redrawing the landscape of existence. If, on the level of science, breathing adjusts circuits and awakens states of consciousness, on the symbolic level, it reveals much vaster landscapes. Inhaling is like opening a window for the light of the invisible to enter. Exhaling is like returning that light, but tinged with the unique color of your perception. The observer in this play does not merely record the world, he paints it with every breath. Think of breathing as an inner tide. Air enters like a wave rising, expanding inner horizons. Air leaves like a wave retreating, leaving traces on the sand of the mind. Each cycle creates an ephemeral writing, like calligraphy on water. No physical proof of this writing remains, but it shapes experience, engraves subtle marks in regions of being that do not appear to the eyes. Another possible image: breathing is lighting and extinguishing an invisible lighthouse. On inhalation, light concentrates as if the observer were collecting information from the entire cosmos. On exhalation, that light spreads, illuminating the surrounding space, reorganizing the forms that manifest there. You do not notice it immediately, but this movement changes the density of experiences, attracts events in resonance with your vibrational state. Ancestral cultures understood this principle without using mathematical formulas. They saw breath as a pact. Every creature breathes the same air, shares the same invisible source. To breathe consciously is to recall this pact, as if the observer were signing again the secret contract of belonging to the whole. And in this act of recalling, the world softens, reorganizes, as if responding to the memory of your place. It is important to note that breathing is also rhythm. The heart beats, but it is air that teaches cadence to perception. Reality does not present itself as a straight line. It pulses, expands, and contracts in a cadence similar to that of breathing. To recognize this is to perceive that the observer does not merely contemplate time, but dances with it, shapes its texture according to the inner rhythm. And what clearer metaphor than fire? A flame remains alive only as long as it breathes. Without oxygen, it dies. With too much air, it also extinguishes. There is a delicate balance that keeps the flame alight. In the same way, the observer keeps his creative perception alive through the balance of breathing. Too short, it suffocates. Too forced, it loses harmony. Conscious, it becomes fuel for awakening. Imagine an artist before a blank canvas. He does not begin painting hastily. First, he breathes before the emptiness, feels the space, perceives the vibration of the surface. Only then does the stroke arise. The observer's breath works the same way. It is the preparatory gesture that precedes any creation. The world offers itself as canvas, and each breathing cycle is an invisible sketch upon it. At this point, we can risk an even more radical metaphor. Breathing is like the beating of the wings of a bird that never lands. Flight does not exist without the rhythm between opening and closing, rising and falling. The bird does not think of the movement. It is the movement. So too the observer. He does not exist without this continuous oscillation between receiving and giving. Life is the flight sustained by the breath of the invisible. On the practical level, this vision opens a transformative space. Breathing consciously is not just a relaxation technique. It is taking an active role in the creation of reality. Each cycle can be lived as an act of participation, not as mechanical repetition. Inhaling is gathering the world. Exhaling is offering the world a recreated version of yourself. Perception ceases to be passive and becomes a gesture of co-authorship. All this takes on another dimension when we understand that breathing connects apparently opposite poles, body and spirit, inner and outer, silence and sound. It is the living bridge that unites dualities. Without words, it teaches us that nothing is truly separate. The air now entering your lungs has already been in oceans, in trees, in other bodies that existed long before you. By breathing, the observer participates in this invisible heritage, this infinite web of interdependencies. And perhaps it is precisely this perception that opens space for true transformation. We do not breathe only to live. We breathe to remember that we are alive within a universe that also breathes with us. The observer awakens to this cosmic pact. The real is not outside waiting to be seen. It is molded with every breath, in tune with the breathing of the one who observes. If up to now breathing has been described as bridge and creation, it is necessary to dare a rupture. Perhaps the observer is not breathing the world. Perhaps it is the world that breathes through the observer. This inversion shifts everything. It is not just you inhaling air, but the universe itself using your body as an instrument to keep a greater cycle in motion. You are not just participant, you are passage. Until now it seemed clear. You inhale, you exhale, you shape perception. But what if it were the other way around? What if perception were the one shaping you, adjusting the rhythm of your breathing? Like a flute played by an invisible musician, each human being would be only the channel through which the cosmic breath manifests. This change of perspective does not reduce your importance. On the contrary, it expands it. For by perceiving yourself as channel, you understand that your breathing is inseparable from the breathing of the whole. Contemporary physics touches this paradox by suggesting that there is no isolated observer. The act of observing already alters the observed field, but at the same time the field also reorganizes the observer. It is a feedback cycle with no fixed point of origin. In this sense, conscious breathing is not only a personal decision, but also an invitation from the universe itself for you to awaken to the pact of interdependence. Think of a bonfire on an open night. The fire seems to be the center, but without moving air, it does not last. At the same time, it is the flame that makes the air vibrate around it, warming and stirring everything nearby. Where does the influence of the fire end and that of the air begin? There is no clear separation. In the same way, where does your act of breathing begin and where does the universal breath end? This distinction dissolves. Here arises the revelation. Breathing does not belong to you. It belongs to something greater that expresses itself through your body. Each breathing cycle is life renewing itself in you, without you needing to control anything. This realization is at once disconcerting and liberating. Disconcerting because it removes control from the isolated I. Liberating because it shows that we are never alone. The entire universe breathes together, sustaining our existence every second. At this point, the observer lets go of the illusion of being a fixed center. What remains is flow. Consciousness is not an island observing from outside, but an inseparable part of an ocean in motion. This perception breaks the habitual pattern. It is not about using breathing to achieve something, but about allowing breathing to reveal your participation in something already happening. And the practical impact of this is immense. When you inhale, you are not only receiving oxygen, you are receiving physical proof of belonging. When you exhale, you are not only releasing carbon dioxide, you are returning your unique signature to the collective field. The world is not scenery before your eyes, but a living organism that breathes inside and outside of you. This is the turning point. Breathing is not an individual tool of transformation, but a language shared with the universe. And recognizing this changes everything. You do not need to force, you do not need to achieve. You only need to become aware of the flow that already moves through you. Transformation is not the result of effort, but the consequence of surrender. That is why at this moment, I want to propose something very simple. Take a deep breath right now, knowing that this air did not begin in you. It has already passed through rivers, trees, mountains, and countless living beings before reaching your lungs. Hold it for an instant, and as you release the air, realize that you are also returning it to the same immense field that offered it. This is the secret dance, giving and receiving without ownership. And if this perception resonated with you, let it carry on beyond this video. Inhale and exhale not only air, but also presence, awareness. And at the end, I want to ask for a simple gesture. Like this video and write in the comments the phrase, "I breathe with the whole." Let this act be not just digital interaction, but a testimony that you recognize breathing as a language shared with the universe. As breathing ceases to be the property of the individual and reveals itself as a gesture of the universe, it becomes inevitable to turn to the stories that, since ancient times, have preserved this mystery in the form of myth. Human beings have always sensed that breathing was not just physiology, but participation in a greater breath. That is why, in many cultures, the beginning of life is told as the moment when a divine breath poured over matter. Among the ancient peoples of Mesopotamia, the myth circulated that the gods shaped figures of clay and kept them motionless until an invisible breath passed through them. The clay took shape, but only with air was it able to rise in movement. The same gesture appears in narratives of other traditions. Creation begins when something intangible crosses matter and awakens consciousness. In this sense, the myth is not just allegory, it is metaphor for what happens in each of us with every breath. But perhaps the most touching image is found in the tradition of the Andean peoples, who spoke of the breath of the mountain. They said that the peaks held the breath of the earth, and that those who climbed in silence could feel the air as if it were the word of stone transformed into wind. For them, breathing in the heights was not just physical effort, it was dialogue with the very essence of the earth. Carrying this vision into the present, we can see each person as that molded clay, that mountain breathing in secret. The observer awakens when he realizes that he not only inhales air, but inhales memory, history, the voice of worlds that came before him. With every exhale, he returns not just invisible gas, but also a unique vibrational signature, as if saying to the universe, "I exist and I participate." To translate this into a symbolic narrative, let us think of the journey of a wanderer crossing deserts in search of meaning. He carries with him doubts and thirst, but it is breathing that guides him. With every step, he feels the thin air, his chest burning, his body nearly giving way. And it is at this limit that revelation happens. It is not he who breathes to survive. It is the desert itself that breathes through him, sustaining his walk. At that moment, the wanderer understands that his life is not separate from the world he crosses. The desert is not enemy, but companion of breath. This archetypal scene echoes in us because we all, at some point, walk through our inner deserts. Periods of loss, of doubt, of silence that feels absolute. And in each of these periods, what sustains us is not only food or physical strength, but the realization that something greater continues breathing in us, even when we think we have no breath left. Breathing is this invisible thread that connects us to the source. And every myth, every ancestral narrative is only a way of reminding us of this bond. When clay rises, when the mountain exhales wind, when the wanderer breathes with the desert, in all these scenarios, the same principle manifests. We are not breathing alone. The power of this perception is that it transforms the ordinary into the sacred. Inhaling upon waking is no longer trivial and becomes a sign of continuity. Exhaling in the middle of a conversation is not just biological adjustment, but reminder that your presence is redrawing the shared field. Each breath is a prayer without words, a silent offering that renews itself endlessly. And it is here that the observer finds depth, perceiving himself as part of this cosmic narrative. Myths are not ancient stories, just to be told. They are living mirrors that reveal what still happens now. We are the clay in motion, the mountain that sighs, the wanderer who discovers himself sustained by the breath of the universe itself. This understanding does not need to be abstract. Just close your eyes for a moment and feel the air entering. This gesture, which seems so simple, is exactly the same that moved the first beings, the ancient peoples, the spiritual masters of all eras. The breath is the thread that crosses centuries, bodies, and worlds. To recognize this is to honor the life that vibrates within us and beyond us. The wanderer who discovers the desert breathing through him does not end his journey in the metaphor. He returns to the body, to the simple movement of air going in and out. It is in this return to the everyday gesture that perception turns into practice, because it is useless to understand intellectually that breathing is a cosmic bridge if it is not experienced as such within one's own chest. Close your eyes for a few moments and bring your attention to the natural movement of air. Do not change anything right away, just notice. Feel the passage through the nose, the slight expansion of the ribcage, the flow that enters, the flow that leaves. Now allow this act, seemingly banal, to reveal its mystery. Each inhale does not begin in you, but in the universe that delivers air. Each exhale does not end in you, but returns to the universe that receives it. The first instruction is simple. Lengthen the breath without forcing. Inhale deeply, letting the air spread into the abdomen, and exhale slowly like someone returning something precious. This rhythm does not need to be exact, but it may approximate 4 seconds of inhalation and 6 of exhalation. The goal is not mathematics, but to feel the body yielding to the flow. Now allow the breath to become image. As you inhale, visualize a dawn expanding within your chest, colors illuminating forgotten regions of your being. As you exhale, visualize these colors spreading beyond the body, as if you were painting the surrounding space. This is not imagining in the fanciful sense, but giving the air a symbol that intensifies its presence. After a few cycles, introduce a gesture of listening. Ask silently, what does this air carry? Perhaps the sensation arises that you inhale calm, vitality, the memory of the earth. Perhaps only a dense silence comes. Accept whatever arises. On exhalation, offer something back. Gratitude, gentleness, courage. Turn each cycle into dialogue. In this exercise, breathing ceases to be mechanical and becomes a living language. The observer is no longer just recording the real, but interacting with it every second. The world breathes through you and you return something to the world. This reciprocity is the heart of the practice. Gradually, you will notice that this rhythm is not limited to the moment with closed eyes. It spills over into the most common actions. Talking, walking, writing. Everything takes on another cadence when the body becomes accustomed to breathing consciously. The mind quiets, not by effort, but because it finds a more stable base. It is like a river that ceases to run in uncontrolled torrent and begins to follow a wide, deep, serene bed. If you want to deepen, try associating the breath with an inner seed word. During inhalation, silently repeat a word like life. During exhalation, repeat, I surrender. Over time, this inner mantra dissolves, and only the sensation remains that you are alive within a cycle that does not end. The word is only initial support. What remains is full silence. There is also a physical aspect that reinforces the exercise. When inhaling, feel your feet firm on the ground, like roots absorbing energy from the earth. When exhaling, perceive the top of your head as an opening to the sky, delivering light to space. This inner geometry creates the sensation that you become a channel between what sustains and what transcends. It is in this state that the practice reveals its essence. The observer is not a separate subject, but conscious breathing that participates in the universal dance. Each cycle becomes prayer without words, act of invisible creation, gesture of surrender and potency at the same time. At the end, do not seek conclusions. Just remain a few moments in silence, noticing how the body vibrates differently, how the mind becomes clearer, how the heart finds another cadence. The technique is not an end in itself. It is an invitation to remember that you do not breathe alone. You never have. This experience, repeated simply over the days, can transform not only internal states, but also the way you relate to the world. For each time you breathe with awareness, the entire universe breathes along. At the end of the exercise, what remains is not only air circulating in the lungs, but the sensation that something has been silently aligned. Breathing ceases to be an invisible habit and becomes a constant reminder that life does not happen outside of us, but through us. Each inhale is the universe offering continuity. Each exhale is proof that we participate in something greater than any definition. The observer awakens in this rhythm, not as someone who controls, but as one who recognizes. Everything breathes together. The tree, the river, the human body, the space that seems empty, all dance in the same cadence. By perceiving this, even the smallest gestures gain a different weight. The everyday becomes sacred territory, where the simple act of breathing is also creating. Do not conclude this experience with explanations. Just breathe once more, now, feeling that the real is not distant. It pulses in the air that enters, vibrates in the air that leaves. Not every answer comes in words. Some reveal themselves as vibration that accompanies the whole body. If this journey touched you, leave a sign in the comments by writing, "I am conscious breath. I want to know who walked with me until the end." And if this content awakened something inside you, subscribe to the channel and keep breathing along with me in each new meeting.